Ray, yes, I'll do that, okay?
Hi, Bob. Good to see you. Yeah, you've got to unmute yourself.
Okay, I thought I did. How we doing?
You're doing good now.
Good. Now, can you guys see me on the screen? I seem to be having some problem here.
Yep, I can see you.
All right, good. Good.
You got a bit of an echo going. I wonder if...
Yeah, that's it. Yes.
Bob, I want to know why you're on there twice. That's why you have the echo probably.
Yes, I know that. That's because I was having trouble with one. I'll sign off the other.
Okay.
Okay, how's that?
Okay, but your video's gone.
I know. See, that's the problem I'm having. I don't get it. I don't understand. All right, I might have to just sign on with my phone then.
Greetings, Gary.
Hello, dear.
How are you?
Okay, how are you?
I'm good.
That's good to hear.
Peace, Octavia.
Peace, peace, Z. And my baby girl, Tahira. What'd she do? Pop off?
Greetings, everyone. No, I didn't pop off.
Okay.
I see Sharia on there too.
Is she?
Yeah.
I can't see other people. Hi, Michael.
Hello.
Oh, there's my screen. There's Octavia. There's Michael.
Yeah. Okay.
Michael, this is Ray Ingram. I'm going to give you screen sharing.
Okay, so you're not going to give that to me there. I have another link where I'm going to have the presentation.
So is somebody else going to show it for you?
No, I've got. Let me just make sure this is working, right? So that's CC. Okay, so yes. So hang on 1 second. Okay.
Michael, did you update it again?
I updated it pursuant to your requests.
Okay, thank you.
So I've got one machine for the presentation, the other machine I get to listen. So
Okay,
hopefully it doesn't confuse anybody.
okay.
So the one that says CCH is just for me to listen. The other one where it says Michael Sullivan, that's where the sharing is going to need to be.
Okay, Ray, can you tell if the director is on yet? Because I didn't want to start until he got on because I'm going to introduce him right away in a few seconds. Can you tell if he's on or not?
I can't see him at the moment.
What about Stephanie Register? She's not on there either, is she?
I do not see her, no. Not as Stephanie, anyway.
Jeffrey's on here.
Okay, well, we may have to, yeah, I saw him. I saw him. I knew he was there. Hi, Jeff. He may be not near the. Okay, I'm going to give it 2 more minutes till 6:05, and hopefully the director will be on. If not, we'll have to get started without him.
Yeah.
Greetings, Sister Shakira. I see you.
Hey, Octavia, assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam tula. How are you?
Very good, thank you.
Good. Thank you for coming.
Oh, it's my pleasure. I'm glad I got the notice.
Cool.
Hey, Ray.
Hi there.
So, I'm trying to give the director a couple minutes. So if the director doesn't come on prior to me welcoming everyone, then we'll go on and start with you, Michael. Because I did speak to him earlier and I told him that I asked him if he would just say a few words prior to us starting. But Jeffrey, could you say a few words prior to us starting if the director doesn't get here? Jeffrey. Guess he's not there either.
I'm here. The director's on his way. Director Daniels.
Yeah. All right, so then I'll go on and get started then.
Okay, let me do this real quick.
You think he'll be here in a minute?
Yeah, give me a second.
Good evening.
Good evening. Hello, Mr. Frisbee.
Good evening. How you doing this evening? I see you have a full house. Looks good.
I know, right? We're just trying to wait for the director, trying to give him another minute or so.
You know what? Sorry about that. He thought it was at 6:30. He's jumping on now.
Okay.
Hey, Sam.
Hey, Sister Register. Look, we've waited 10 years for this project. We can wait 6 minutes.
Hey, Jessica.
Hello, lovely.
Hi, Mrs. Frisbee.
Good evening, Miss Octavia. How are you on this beautiful day?
I'm
Evening.
very well, thank you. And I'm so grateful you're here.
Glad to be here. Thank you for having this.
Oh, Michael, you know what? I didn't even see you over there. Hi, Michael.
I don't know why he's there twice.
I didn't even see, I'm so sorry. I'm sorry we missed each other today, Mike.
That's all right. I think we're good.
Good stuff. Pastor Taylor, good to see you.
Mariana. Oh my gosh.
Hi,
Hi, sweetheart.
I'm finally out of my student teaching hole.
Okay, okay. Welcome back home.
Thank you. I'm glad to be back. Your beautiful face, and I wrote it here.
Bernard, you have the stats for us, right? For the Survey Monkey?
Do you want me to put them up, Octavia?
Yeah, you could put them up now while we're waiting for the director. That would be
Right.
good.
Stephanie, I'm sorry you spoke to me. I was on mute. Hello, everyone, and Happy New Year. And I think after third Sunday, we can stop saying Happy New Year, right?
Hello. Okay.
Just to give you a context, this is just one table from a bunch of questions that we asked on the survey. For those of you who took it, you know. As of this afternoon, we had about 90 responses, which is really great since we only announced this on Friday or Saturday.
Okay.
The survey is going to continue open. I thought that this question might be the most useful one. It was sort of midway through the survey that asked, how important would it be for you, for the area at or around Mercer Medical Center to have the following? And so I have taken those answers and arrayed them from most popular or most desired, apparently, to least, highlighting the ones in green as 4 primary areas that more than 3 out of the 5 people or respondents said they wanted, and that was a supermarket or grocery store, a childcare center, wellness or acute center, and pharmacy. Those are probably not surprising. And then further down, you see similar types of food-related, family-related items. So this is at least a perspective of where people are. Along with it, people are who respond to the survey are very interested. Many of them, in fact, about 89% of them thought that this development project, if it were to come true, would be beneficial to the community, and particularly in the areas, and they're hoping at least in the areas of employment, and education, and in small business opportunities. That's a quick summary without going into all the weeds.
Okay, thank you. Can you send that to me, Bernie?
Sure, and Ray will send it to you as well.
Okay, thank you.
How long will the survey be active?
Until the 30th of January.
Okay, great. This is very informative and helpful.
Right.
We thought that would be enough time. Do you think that's enough time, Michael? I think it is, and
Okay.
and what's interesting is that whoever did the survey must have been looking at the redevelopment plan uses that we are contemplating, because it really ranks the ones that we've put in here in a large respect. Not all of them, but it's very helpful.
Well, we combined those that were on the plan already, and some that some people in the community had already suggested as well.
Yeah, no, this is fantastic.
Yeah.
Okay, the director should be coming on. Who's sharing the screen?
Michael is going to share the plan.
Okay, cool.
Once we get started.
After we get started.
Yep, I
Okay.
believe the director should be on.
Yeah, I see him. He's here.
Okay, cool.
Hello,
I'm
Director
waiting.
Daniels.
Unmute yourself.
Okay, there we go. How's everyone doing this evening?
Good. Everyone is
Good.
fine. Thank you. Thank you for
Great.
coming. So I want to tell everybody, I want to say Happy New Year's to everybody. And I want to say, may we all be blessed with all the aspirations we have for the new year
this
and
on my
each year
camera,
thereafter,
okay?
God willing.
Thank you.
Please note, everyone, that this meeting will be recorded. I'm Octavia Sutphin, and I'm founder and president of NIA Neighborhood Improvement Association. And we want to thank all of you for attending this meeting. The purpose of this meeting is to review the existing Bellevue-Rutherford Avenue redevelopment plan and respond to any relevant concerns that anybody in the community may have regarding this plan. But most importantly, to try and resolve in advance what issues City Council may entertain prior to presenting the plan to Council. And it's been said that the plan may be in vain, but I believe nothing beats a failure but a try. So keep in mind, it's crucial that we form an alliance with all parties concerned to show a united front in moving this plan forward to the next step as a resolution of the Bellevue-Rutherford Avenue redevelopment project. So with that being said, I'd like to ask Director Daniels of Housing Economic Development to say a few words. Okay, so where'd he go?
You're on mute, Brother Daniel. You're on
Yeah,
mute.
you're on mute. You're still on mute. Okay, there you go.
Okay, got it. Okay. Thank you, Ms. Something, and to all on this call, good evening. I am incredibly excited about the hope and opportunity represented in this Mercer Hospital redevelopment plan. I think that it's energy like the energy that will be on this call, and quite frankly, all of the work that has been put in by NIA, NIA, Neighborhood Improvement Association, all of the developers. And I would like to thank from my department, Stephanie Register, quite frankly, who has just been a stalwart in bringing me up to speed on what has been happening. When you talk about a development of this proportion and this size, not only will it, if you will, reimagine an entire community in the West Ward, but an entire city, and probably, I believe, will serve as a model for the region, quite frankly. So I'm excited about the mixed use. I'm excited about the jobs that will potentially be created. And I would agree and echo the sentiments of Ms. Sumter. Nothing beats an effort but a try. I think that the energy surrounding this is what it needs to be, quite frankly, and that's on a real high hill. So I'm going to shut up, quite frankly, because I realize that the smart people have yet to talk. However, I'm here, whatever aid, assistance, and or support that my office can lend. I'm just here to do it. So, Ms. Sumter, I'd like to thank you and quite frankly, everyone on this call for the part that you have played getting us to this point. It's been a long time coming.
Okay, thank you, Director Daniels. And just call me Octavia, please.
Okay.
Michael, will you do the honors and presenting the plan to us now, please?
Well, I just need someone to allow me to share the screen with
Ray.
With the Michael Sullivan box, not the other one, not the CCH box.
Ray, you on mute.
Thank you. Michael, your Michael Sullivan box?
Yes.
Co-hosting. You can just click share screen and go ahead.
Okay. Full screen mode. All right. Hopefully this goes off without a hitch. I appreciate having the opportunity tonight to brief the community once again on the effort that has been ongoing with respect to the redevelopment around the Mercer Hospital campus and the environs. Just by way of introduction, I'm Michael Sullivan, principal with Clark Caton Hints in Trenton. Our office is right around the corner from the State House. And we actually prepared the original study for the Bellevue-Rutherford Redevelopment Area for its designation as a redevelopment area. And most recently, over the last 2 years, we've been working with Pan-Asia Estate, the owner, the latest owner of the campus, to try to create a vision for this area that can be used as a basis to create a redevelopment plan, which is essentially a series of regulations for this zoning. Everybody knows what zoning is. So that's what we're trying to do here, is to get to the point where we create this new zoning, but also with these other tools. I said that we've been working on this with Pan-Asia for the better part of 2 years. And this process really had begun to take on some more meaningful momentum as we got more involved and we presented it to the planning staff and had comments from them back and forth. And then we began to engage the Neighborhood Improvement Association, and we had a few meetings with them this summer. And then we had a community meeting on September 21st, where we were in person and we presented this plan, this concept plan, to the community, and we got comments. There was governing body members were there, members of the planning staff, of course, Stephanie, and that was on September 21st of 2021. We also, subsequent to that, presented this to the planning board to get their feedback. And in both cases, there was overwhelming support for the initiative here in terms of the redevelopment of the campus and the other peripheral ideas about zoning and development and other things. So where we are tonight is we're having a second community meeting to make sure that we reach the neighborhood as best we can. And we're also finalizing the plan itself with the planning department in hopes that this could get a hearing in early 2022 by the city council in order to adopt the plan. That's our goal. And once the plan is adopted, then redevelopment agreements can happen, and then the redevelopment projects, which was what everybody has been wanting to see, can happen. The folks who've been involved in this, obviously, Octavia Sutphin and the other folks from Neighborhood Improvement Association. The mayor's been, he was at our meeting, our community meeting in September, very supportive. And Stephanie Register has really been spearheading this from the planning office, but also Robert Pernetti, former county executive, and myself, my firm. And then we've also got financial folks who are working on this as well, to provide some projections and to give some reality to this. Plans can be beautiful, but if there's not a fiscal reality to them, it doesn't work. So we do have those folks involved to support this effort and check us. So what are we going to accomplish with this? Well, the first thing is we want to eliminate the dilapidated and blighted conditions around the hospital, and in doing so, bring back redevelopment in a series of uses that we think are appropriate for the neighborhood and also marketable so that they can be occupied. And all this together will strengthen the neighborhood. And it's not just commercial and educational uses that we're looking to bring in here. We think new housing really represents a large part of what can happen here. Everything can't be a business. And so new housing and thinking about housing in different ways, something we want to do. And then finally, we do want to create some new open space and also create linkages to the existing open spaces here. Those are some of the overarching goals of this. And why do we use redevelopment? Just to remind folks, it's zoning and design regulations, and we can use the redevelopment statute to create even more specific design regulations that you could create in a typical zoning ordinance. You can be much more specific. But the other thing that are afforded there is there's enhanced tools, including fiscal incentives, that can help make it more feasible for a redeveloper to come in and do this, where it wouldn't be feasible without those tools. And ultimately, we see the stabilization around the hospital, the redevelopment to improve the economic growth throughout the city and this particular area in the West Ward. So saying all that as a preface, the context is, here's the location of the redevelopment area out towards the west end of Trenton. It is, we call it Bellevue-Rutherford Redevelopment Area because those are the big streets. Bellevue's an extra wide street, and then it intersects Prospect, which really pulls you into the core of the area here. So just as a reminder, it's been a while since anybody's really been out there looking, but here's some images of the existing hospital properties. You can see they're overgrown. We've got fencing around them. The owner is continuing to maintain them the best he can while he's awaiting the approval of the plan and getting off the ground with redevelopment projects. So we know what we're facing here. But the neighborhood itself has a mix of of beautiful old housing stock and some multifamily buildings. It's got some civic buildings, and it does also have some homes and sites that do need some renovation and replacement, redevelopment. But overall, the neighborhood surrounding this area is in pretty good shape, and so this plan seeks to strengthen that. And then I talked about open space. We've got the canal that winds through here. It's a state park. And we think that there's an opportunity there to really engage it. And also there's the greenway that runs through here, which we need to engage in a meaningful way. So this represents the overall concept plan for the redevelopment area. And what we're suggesting is that there would be 4 different types of zones, if you will, in here. The dark red in the center is the area of the existing campus, and we call that the district center area for mixed use. Then the dark brown, very small area of dark brown, I don't know if you can see my pointer, along Prospect, Rutherford, a little area of mixed use, which means some small residential and small commercial. Then we've got the rust color in area of East Stuyvesant and along Bellevue, which is strictly we see as multifamily residential. And then the gold areas are the areas where we have the renovation and infill. And what we're talking about there is really just neighborhood improvement, neighborhood preservation of these homes, not replacement, not wholesale redevelopment, but just finding a way to keep upgrading the neighborhood and using the existing housing stock to the greatest extent we can because of its architecture and beauty. We also talk about we showed the canal that runs through here, and you can see the Capitol Greenway off as we go east on here. We also think that there are opportunities to engage those at certain points along Prospect and near the canal. And also we think that there are some small new public open spaces that should be developed within the core and in the neighborhood areas here so that we can create places for people. So the first thing I want to talk about, I'll talk a little bit about the district center mixed use sub area. The plan isn't showing. Somebody's telling me the plan isn't showing. Can people not see it?
I see it.
Yes, we can see
I
it.
can see it.
I see it.
Okay, somebody said they couldn't see it, so, okay.
I can see it.
Okay. So the district center mixed use area is really the area around the hospital campus and then the area where the old ambulance building was along Prospect and Bellevue there. And this is the mixed use area. And the vision for here is that a lot of the uses that we just looked at the survey, but plus a lot of medical uses and office uses and educational uses, we think can find a home here. And some of those would be in new buildings and some would be in adaptively reused buildings that are on the hospital campus that can be reused to the extent they can. But we also envision that new buildings would take on a more dynamic vibe and be more contemporary and relate more to the current market. So a lot of uses there, but a lot of flexibility. And really the bulk of commercial development would be located in the mixed use sub area. Saying that, there would also be an opportunity for some multifamily development within that area in combination with these. And we think that the multifamily residential is really going to help drive and make these other uses that are really desirable in the neighborhood feasible. And particularly one of the things that we noted early on, and the survey is reflecting it, is getting a high quality supermarket in here in this neighborhood is one of the key things. And that's why we show the Aldi supermarket there. But we really think that that's going to be a real key. And we're going to try to hold out a large enough site so that we can accommodate that. And it could be in combination with residential, but we don't know. So that's really the idea about the uses and the vibe of the district center, and then engaging the canal and the greenway. We think that where buildings abut the greenway, that we should be turning our buildings not away from the
Online sports gambling. We haven't even been to Texas.
Sorry, somebody should mute. So anyway, so this diagram shows how we think the Greenway and the Belvedere Greenway can be re-engaged. And so it's not the backside of development, but it's really another front where we have public access to the Greenway, and that buildings that are developed along the Greenway relate to it in a way where there's outdoor space adjacent to and on the buildings in the form of balconies or roof decks, so that folks can see what's going on in there. So you have eyes on that and also access. And we think that's a great opportunity. The mixed use sub area is a very small area near the intersection of Prospect, Rutherford, and East Stuyvesant. And that's an area where we see that there could be some smaller scale mixed use where you have fewer uses than you might see in the district center because you don't have large enough sites, but you could have retail and some little studios, but also all of those types of uses should have the opportunity to have a couple floors of apartments above, and you could have new residences there. And I think that's a nice way to deal with that along the street frontage there. And that's really the vibe of the mixed use area. The multifamily sub area, as its name implies, is really just for residential. We don't want to overbuild this area with too much in the way of retail, commercial, office. The office market in this climate over the past few years is really in the pits. Retail is still a challenge, and so we don't want to mandate that retail be located everywhere. But we do think that because there is multifamily development near there, there's apartments, that this is an appropriate place to do so in these two places, and that it could be done at a higher density than you might see in the neighborhoods where we have the 2 to 3 story early 20th century, late 19th century buildings. And when we do this in these areas along the canal, we would want, and these are some examples of some of the lower scale multifamily residences. Of course, we think we can go much higher and accommodate and do it in a way that's sensitive to every other element of the neighborhood. But when we do it similar to where we talked about the Greenway, we should be doing the same thing for the canal. The canal, I'll take a moment to say something about the canal. The canal really is this park that runs 60 miles or so more. And when it gets into this area, it really becomes the backyard and this untended space. And so our vision is that it really becomes an amenity and it's treated like one. And the more that we open it up and we can get folks along the canal and we get buildings to engage the canal and sites, then there'll be more activity there and there'll be more stewardship, we think, of the canal. And so we think that that's very important as we come through here. And finally, the renovation and infill sub area. This is the area where we really envision just repairing the fabric that exists, and that there are neighborhood preservation programs and other ways to do this. And this could happen on a lot by lot basis, or there could be a series of lots, but there's nothing more envisioned here than just really repairing and restoring what's there now, because we think that it's got a lot of great character. But there are some buildings that really might be past the point of repair. And if things do happen there, then these townhomes that we're showing here represent some a lower scale, more of approach that's more contemporary to how you might do row houses today. And finally, the open space. This slide isolates the open spaces that we're talking about. You can still see the canal that runs through the lower left towards the east, and then you can see the Greenway, and there's the Edgewood Avenue playground, and then there's the Rutherford Avenue playground down to the west. And then the ovals, or light green ovals, are where we think that it makes sense that we should be looking to create new public open space. And these are distributed really where we think the most development is going to occur. New development, and these can have different characters, but really, the most impactful would be the one that is at the intersection of Bellevue and Prospect, because that's really when you drive in or walk into this area, that's the intersection where you feel like you've arrived in the district. It's a sense of arrival there. So we think that an open space there could have a great impact and could also be an organizing space for new businesses or retail or restaurants or whatever folks are going to be doing there that really complements the sociability of the open space. The yellow asterisks here show where we think there's a good potential for access to the greenway and to the canal. And so that on a plan like this, it's just a dot. But as we get into the redevelopment and we get detailed about that, then those elements would be fully thought out and developed with the city. And then finally, on circulation, we do think that there may be some opportunities to expand the grid and create better circulation. And so these red arrows up here, Fraser Street and Marion Street, really show how we think that the grid could be extended so that we don't have dead ends and that there's a better public access and eyes on the street, and that would be good for security and make access easier. So that's a suggestion. The plan doesn't depend on it, but we think it's a good suggestion. This is more of a technical thing. Part of this redevelopment area overlaps the Central West redevelopment area, which is an existing redevelopment area. And so there need to be, when we do the redevelopment plan, the ordinance, it will have to take, it will have to acknowledge that in some way. So that's just a housekeeping item. The development overview. So we've done some very preliminary projections about what we think could get done here. And when we look purely at the central area, the central core, we have projected about 400 units of housing that could be developed in the central area, the former campus. And about 140,000 to 150,000 square feet of office, retail and market space, about 35 to 40,000, and then educational, excuse me, and medical space, around 300,000. I'm going to tell you right now, these are very preliminary, and until the zoning is adopted and we actually start doing real plans that we can measure space and we can figure out how tall buildings might be, we don't really know, but this gives us a good initial sense of what we think we can do on the site. This is the economic impact. I'm not the economic guy, but I'm going to tell you right now that the overall construction would result in about 167 million in economic output and about 1,000 jobs. 56 million would be in wages. And the residential components annually would generate about 9 million in output with 88 new jobs, 3 million in wages. And then annually, the commercial components could generate up to 920 jobs and 51 million in wages. Don't ask me any questions about that because the economic analysts did those, and I'm just repeating what they did. And I'm going to say this: that's also based on the analysis of what we saw in the district mixed use center, and it doesn't take into account any of the other economic activity outside of that. And it's preliminary because we haven't actually done design plans for anything yet until the redevelopment plan is adopted. So with that caveat, that gives you a little sense of that. As we talked about, we have been engaged in the community in cooperation and partnership with the Neighborhood Association and the City Planning Office. This is our second community meeting. We've had a planning board meeting. We've got a draft plan ready to roll. And we're hoping that we have enough support with all of these agencies and also the public that we can move towards a city council introduction is very early in 2022 so that we can move then towards projects. And the projects are what are going to get things done. So that's the summary. Hopefully I didn't go on too long and hopefully I didn't speak too quickly, but I'm happy to take any questions regarding the plan we talked about tonight. And thank you very much for your attention.
Michael, if you could stop screen sharing, that would be great. Perfect. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Over to you, Octavia.
Second here. Okay, do we have any questions at this point? Remember, one of the things that I stressed was that we really want to make sure that we find anything in this plan that would keep that would have city council have some objections. So that's one of the main objects of this meeting as well.
Can I actually ask you or anyone else from NIA to speak how you guys have been a part of this process since the very beginning, and how you guys have worked not only with Benasia, Clark Hayden, Hinton, and the city of Trenton to make sure that the entire community is involved with development, and that how you guys are participating, becoming your own CHODO to assist in providing affordability within the community, working with the existing social capital within the community. So it would probably be advantageous for the you guys to speak a little bit about from a community perspective, where you guys are, Miss Octavia.
Well, you just did.
Well, you can collaborate a little bit.
Okay. All right. Well, we have actually NIA's really been working at this and been trying to get this to move forward for some years now. And when Benasia bought that spot, it was like, you know, it's really helpful. It's really helpful for what we were trying to do. So we have just started to work on receiving our CHODOs. There's things that we want to do in the community, as well as trying to move forward with developing as well. So we want to be like an accent and work with Benasia and Clark Hayden and Hinton. We have been meeting with them. We have discussed a lot of the plan with them prior to us presenting it to the community. And there's some issues that we need to work out, like how we can not have unintentional gentrification. Those are things that we have to discuss, and how we can really move forward with not, you know, upsetting the people in the community and not moving them out, because we want everybody to be involved in this plan, in this project, and we want it to be for everybody in the community. So these are things that we have to figure out how to work out. We want to also be involved with the economic development piece. We want to work with local developers. We want this community, this plan to be for everybody in the city, for especially the West Ward, because it's been lacking. We've had that void for so long, and this plan is really will help us move forward. So we have to work with Benasia, Clark Hayden and Hinton to get this plan to move forward. So that's all I could say.
And so I know I'm kind of hijacking your meeting, Octavia, but Jeffrey,
It's okay.
The supervisor planner, Jeffrey, do you mind speaking a little bit about the rehabilitation process and why we had added that as a component to the redevelopment plan? Are you still around, Jeff? Here we go. Yep. That's my supervisor, y'all. So I'm picking on him.
No, I'm still here. Yeah, I think, you know, during that process of evaluating the community and understanding that there was definitely a concern around gentrification. There was definitely concern around acquiring properties. And so the residents was really want to make sure that, you know, the residential community was not part of that decision process. And so with the rehabilitation designation, those particular properties aren't considered. Did I answer your question, Stephanie?
Yes, because I think a big concern of this is gentrification. And so that everyone knows that this is an opportunity for everyone within the community to have part in some rehabilitation form, whether you're a homeowner or those who would like to purchase city-owned properties within the community and have the ability to be able to do so without going to auction. So this is an opportunity that not just for the developer or the owner for the Mercer site, but for those who are interested in becoming a part of this development of the entire community. And I must emphasize working in conjunction with NIA, who is a community housing development organization. So these are all components that NIA has been working with the consultants and with the developer and with the city of Trenton to make sure that they shepherd and guide this process along so that we can be very inclusive. And if I'm wrong, any all the planners on the call, please correct me if I'm wrong.
What is currently on the site where they're talking about new residential properties?
I can answer that if that's okay. On the site now is the hospital buildings, the hospital office buildings, the old hospital building, and the other site across Bellevue by the canal is a parking lot. So anywhere where we're talking about the larger mixed use or the multifamily, the larger multifamily development, it's either the hospital properties or it's commercial properties or the ambulance, the former ambulance garage, or the parking lot. There's a parking lot adjacent to the canal.
So none of that is going to displace anyone who already lives there.
No.
That's
Nope.
correct. That's
No.
correct.
Exactly.
Hi, I've got a couple of questions about that. First of all, I just want to say how excited I am about this plan. It looks wonderful, very well thought out, and comprehensive and inclusive. And so thank you for the work that you've put into this. Clearly, it's been a labor of love for this area. So regarding the housing, the area that I guess that residential infill where most of the residential properties are now, do you all know or have an idea about the percentage of owner occupied houses in that area and how many of those residential units are now city owned because of foreclosure, tax foreclosure or whatever?
I don't have that information right now. Do you, Michael?
We don't have that, no.
Oh, okay. I was just so.
Well, let me just say, this is Bob Pernetti, and I apologize, y'all can't see me. I'm having difficulty with my camera, but we have begun to conduct a survey, and we're trying to get that as accurate as we possibly can. But we're working with some people in the community and some real estate people to try to identify just that exactly, which are owner occupied, which are maybe properties that the city maintains control of. So that's the kind of thing. It's kind of an inventory that we're trying to put together, just so we have a good sense of who owns what in the neighborhood.
That's
and
great.
Real quick, I'm sorry, Shakira, I'm sorry to interject, real quick. Mr. Pernetti, do you mind just introducing yourself to everyone? And then just, because I know you were trying to get on, but just so everyone know that your relationship with the owner of the site.
Sure, absolutely. As Michael said, my name is Bob Pernetti. I'm with Phoenix Ventures as the former county executive in Mercer County. I've been working with this project even before Pan Asia had it, way back when Capital Health was leaving the property. I was involved back at that time, and then I was retained by Pan Asia to help sort of spearhead this effort to try to bring this plan to where you see it. So I was responsible for bringing Michael and his people on the team, our financial people, and I'm just kind of like the project manager here, a liaison with the city of Trenton and with NIA. We've had I think a great relationship with NIA. We've worked with them for some time now. Octavia and I have been working and talking together for several years. So that's my role, is to work with the community, work with the city, put a team together so that we can bring this plan to reality and actually start some redevelopment on the site.
Well, that leads me to my last question, which is around the projections for development. Are these projections based on what you all are seeing as demand for retail and office space? I mean, is there that kind of demand here in Mercer County?
Well, I think we need to delve into that a little bit more, actually, when it comes down to the phases of implementation. So at each phase, we will be doing economic analysis that, gives us better information, better data on the demand for the kinds of services or retail services, particularly, that there are. So, but at this point in time, we looked at it in relationship to the other things that are going on in the site and what we believe the needs of the community are, and some of the information like the survey you all put together. And that's what led us to identify space, not necessarily exact uses, but space that would be used for retail purposes. One of the things that we heard a lot was the need for some type of a supermarket. And so that's why we've designated enough space to accommodate that sort of thing on the site. The other thing that led us there is with some of the new state legislation for economic incentives. There is an incentive for supermarkets in urban areas, and we hope to be able to take advantage of that as well and lure someone here that would provide those kinds of services. But other than that, we really haven't identified specific uses, like whether it would be what type of retail project it would be, or retail space it would be, whether it be a restaurant, or whether it would be a dry cleaner, or any other kind of retail operation. So we don't know that yet, and I think the conditions will dictate that at the time. But the key thing for us to remember here is that this plan, though it doesn't specifically identify the type of use, it does identify the larger types of uses that could be developed on the site and within the zone. And so that's what we've tried to do, is to identify at least enough space to provide for those kinds of things.
Mm-hmm. I had one more question, but I'll remember it later, probably.
Okay.
Sam, you want to respond? You want a question? You have a question? You have a hand up.
Yeah, it's more of a comment. I think that as we look at the uses for the spaces, Bob, I hope that we're looking at some of the historic data that has already gone forth in the West Ward. We already have a shopping center that is about 3 blocks away from that particular site, with a supermarket that is currently not doing well, and several of the businesses that are in that shopping center that are not currently doing well. We have a supermarket that we did place about 1.5 blocks away from that current site that closed on the Hermitage Avenue site several years ago that did not do well. Yeah. So just because people want those things does not mean that we can support those things the way that they come forth. And also looking at the type of businesses that go there. If we're going to do another supermarket, it's got to be a higher end supermarket that is going to draw people from multiple spaces. And I mean, so we've got a lot of research and gravity to kind of do to put the right types of projects into this space, because just because we build it does not mean that they will come. We've got to make sure that we're doing the research process.
Commissioner, I agree. I think clearly, as I said, within each phase of the project, when we identify specific types of retail establishments, we're going to have to do an economic analysis, to make sure of demand, particularly to make sure that those businesses have a good chance of being successful. Clearly, yes.
Right. And we think, just to pick up on that, and Bob's exactly right. We are thinking about this in terms of not what exists today, but how this is going to happen over time with new uses. and this takes a little bit of imagination and vision. Imagine a redeveloped, revitalized campus space that is not sitting there with weeds in it, but has a combination of, educational, medical, office, and then the retail comes. And don't forget residential. There will be, with 400 to 500 new units in that area, that's market. You're bringing market here. The other thing about this is the placement and the location of such a space. The Hermitage Avenue site is not a great site, right? It doesn't have great access. Putting something at the corner of Bellevue and Prospect in that area is you're visible from everywhere. You're access from, down Prospect, Bellevue into the city. So if you think about how this would be, bringing the market here so that somebody would come here. When I say market, I'm talking about the people who are going to patronize the market. That's going to happen through the development of the campus and bringing in new residential units.
I'm in agreement with that, and I can kind of vision that happening. But again, we look at the historic data. You had Wells Fargo Bank in the Pennington Avenue Shopping Center, which is a main thoroughfare between Ewing and Trenton with very high income along that route. It's not a poo-poo. It's saying that we have to make sure that we're doing that study. And just because we say that it's going to be good, doesn't mean that it's going to be good.
Yeah,
right? And so we've got to do the work to make sure.
Agreed.
Absolutely. Well, we're all in agreement. Yes.
Yeah.
I remembered my last question, and that is, does your plan make room for preservation of some of the buildings that are there, preservation and reuse of any of the buildings that are there, or is this all going to be just everything torn down in that core business area?
Well, the plan encourages and it encourages adaptive reuse of any historic buildings. So that's something that the plan is emphasizing. And there's ways to do adaptive reuse where you're not stuck in that building, right? You can use the building and add to it and things like that. So the plan strongly advocates for historic preservation, adaptive reuse of older buildings.
Yeah, and I would like to add to that we've been through those buildings ad nauseum with engineers and architects and what have you. There are some that are very viable, but there are others that just are not. So we're going to have to go through. We'll do a more detailed analysis of each building, and the ones that we can use clearly, we're going to use, as Michael said. But I just want to caution everyone that there are going to be some that that they're just not viable structurally or in any other way, and we're not going to be able to use some of those buildings.
Right, and you wouldn't want to jeopardize the successful elements of the plan to save a building that couldn't be used in a meaningful way in this market. So
I can jump in. I've had my hand up for a little bit, but I just wanted to give my Ms. Octavia, you did say that you wanted to get responses to what you think would be a hesitation where you might get some pushback from city council. So my 2.5 cents is I'm going along a little bit with what Mr. Frisbee said earlier. We have an Aldi's that's very close to there. So we will be spinning the wheel, doing the very same thing. So a higher end, like maybe a Trader Joe's or a Wegmans probably would be more advantageous because those are the types of things that we don't have in our community that we do need. And the other thing,
I'll drink to that.
Thank you. And then the other part is
that same thought.
If we would take into consideration, or has it been taken into consideration, the effect that it would or would not have any type of impact on the school that is just 2 blocks down the street from it. So we have that, our youth there. Have we taken into consideration how that's going to impact the youth, that school that's down there? And I think that's really about it. How is that going to affect there? Because there's a church right across the street from there. So those are 2 entities that we have to take into consideration when building this. And if city council would push back on anything, those are areas I think that they would push back on. The redundancy of the Aldi's and taking into consideration our church that's 2 blocks down, but especially our school that is also 2 blocks down as well. Thank you.
Well, there's nothing in the,
This,
there's the plan right now that would be inconsistent with the school or the church continuing to be there. For instance, at the school, the concept for redevelopment envisions that it would be more residential, like the neighborhood that wraps around the school already. So it would be, it might be a little bit larger scale, but it would be more residential. And the activation of the campus, just to be safer, is going to be a positive influence on the school and a positive influence on the church environs as well. So I don't see any downside.
What about just the traffic, just bringing in more traffic into there? That also might be a concern during the school hours. So it would definitely bring about higher traffic.
Yeah, when you increase density, you bring about all of those components. And one of the aspects that NIA has worked very closely with the development of this plan is creating more open spaces so that we can actually see that we incorporated spaces for children. So again, as Michael just stated, some things, we have to look at it from, if we're going to create that much density, working with the city of Trent, how do we look at the traffic, work at the traffic components? Yeah. So, all of those concerns actually have been addressed. It's pretty much, and I want to interject this too. It is not the city's plan, is really the community's plan too. So I want to make sure that you guys all understand that that's one of the reasons why NIA has been shepherding this, because this has literally been vetted, thrown in the garbage, picked through everything by NIA, and they have been trying their best to include the community to make sure that everyone's ideas are included on this plan too, with the preservation in mind, and looking at the existing infrastructure of the Bellevue site, how antiquated it is and why it must be redeveloped.
Also, I do want to say that one of the concerns I know is about renovation, the properties that are already there where people already live. So one of the things we do need to do is to look at the various resources that will help the homeowners that live there now. Okay, so that's really an important part that we must play as well.
Hi, this is Jackie. I am a native Trentonian and a homeowner here on the west side. So this is all very exciting. Michael, thank you for that great presentation. I did have a comment and a question. The first comment is related to those red arrows, which extended out to the neighboring streets and communities. And to Mr. Frisbee's point, considering how creating an enclave, which is what you're doing, especially if you're bringing in market rate residential, how is something like the Hermitage Avenue, development area connecting to that, right? Because I've seen it in other cities where this market rate brings in outsiders who just sit there, right? And then we still haven't developed the neighboring streets or communities. And so we still have the dilapidated streets or, the broken homes right next door, right? And because these are market rate residential units, those people who are coming in aren't necessarily going to venture to the neighboring streets to, either patron other retail places or, other shops that are in the neighborhood still. So interested in knowing how those connections are going to be made to other areas throughout West Trenton. And also, in terms of the canal, I was just curious, who has ownership of the canal? Not only the upkeep, but also the real estate space of the water?
Yeah, that's it. It's state. It's the
Canal
state.
Commission. Yeah, the New Jersey State Canal Commission.
Yeah, that's the DNR Canal Commission.
And how are they involved in this project?
We're trying to keep them as far away as possible until we have a strong plan and we can go in and actually get something done, because they are not known for being accepting of new things. They are not known to move quickly, and they have an antiquated master plan. The good news about it is that within the city, there are not massive setbacks from the canal that you have in some of the more suburban areas. So we do have the opportunity to engage. And as long as we are not, let me say, negatively impacting in some structural way, and not introducing any kind of crazy modern infrastructure, I think that they could be convinced that this is a welcome thing for better engagement of the canal and improvements around it to get better use along the canal.
Yeah.
I'm
Michael,
an optimist.
do you want to respond to her question regarding the market rate? Or Bob?
Well, yeah, well, let me get, and Michael can jump in. Let me just speak a little bit to that. The type of housing will be market rate, but there will also be some affordable housing that's built new on the site. So there's going to be a mix there, and we're going to, again, you know, as we move along with plans for development, we're going to have to see what mix, what allocation of each makes the most sense, but there will be a mix. The other thing is we're going to encourage work with the city, work with the community in every way we can. We've looked at those corridors that you mentioned. We looked at some of those areas, and that's part of where you see the infill. We've even looked beyond that. For purposes of this plan, we haven't moved to some of those areas, let's say going down Prospect, going towards West State Street. But we do have some ideas about how to help redevelop those areas as well. But that's not part of this plan. So the corridors and the redevelopment, we hope that the entire plan, the entire project will encourage movement throughout the district. And hopefully what we do on the site and the programs that we're going to try to work with the city and the state and the community to rehabilitate homes off the site will encourage that kind of movement throughout the district at least, and hopefully beyond. Michael, you may want to add to that.
Yeah, and that's exactly right, Bob, is that, you know, it's the right now the Pan Asia controls what they control. They own the hospital, and that once we get a redevelopment plan adopted, they have that control. The neighborhood, in renovation and rehabilitation and infill, they don't own that. So to the extent that there's a way to facilitate that or help the city work with the community to show the way, you know, show a good path towards rehabilitation, show the programs that are out there. And that's really another great opportunity for some of the small businesses who do that kind of work in Trenton is within the rehabilitation area. There may be contractors who aren't geared up to build a 10-story building, but they can certainly do the renovation of a handful of these buildings and get going on that, or even buy them and flip them. Who knows? But
I'm glad you said that too, Mike, because one of the aspects of what we're doing in the city is we're working with, we do have our agency, the Community Development Block Grant home program called the Trent Urban Rehab Project that actually afford a certain amount of monies for those to bring their homes up to code. But then we are also developing a program called Fight the Blight, where we will be working with local contractors to actually stabilize and rehabilitate homes such as vacant homes in this particular area that are city owned, to bring them up to code so that they are available for sale. So we are literally working, developing those programs that while we are working to develop the Mercer site itself, working in tandem with NIA and also with local contractors within the neighborhood to be able to look at a lot of these vacancies and these abandoned properties and bring them up to a certain code where we can sell them within. So we're developing all sorts of activities while this is happening. And that's why we're working closely with NIA too, with their CHOTO as they develop their housing component to be able to acquire properties and begin to sell them back into the community. So as you were stating, there's great opportunity that has been happening. Again, we're just trying to make sure that we get the plan. Remember what Michael said from the beginning, this is a zoning ordinance, pretty much. This is a land use portion, what can be allowed within the community. And so we're hoping that, you know, as we do this, a lot of people in the neighborhood will also become more affluent as to what, you know, their zoning powers are. I'm going to actually go ahead and it's a couple of hands up. Italia, do you have?
Italia, she needs to be heard.
Okay.
Hello, everyone. A lot of the things that I was going to speak up on have already been answered. But from the last meeting and in conjunction with this meeting, the concerns still remain the same. So in terms of dealing with the council and moving this forward, I believe that this plan has not spoke enough within the plan of how the community can be eased in with the new plans. So the same concerns keep coming up in terms of how the current homeowners are going to be incorporated into this plan, how the existing community will be incorporated into this plan. And so while I like the plan, I just think that we need to talk more about how the current community exists within the plan. Because you guys talked about it offhand because the questions were being asked, but these questions were asked before. And so I guess I'm saying that this should be incorporated in the plan as well.
So let me try to answer this. What we've been talking about are what we think we see for the residential rehabilitation infill area, and those are places where we envision that existing residents will remain as rehabilitation happens. As Stephanie just said, this plan is a zoning plan. We cannot mandate in this plan how folks participate in the redevelopment. That would be done through post adoption of the plan redeveloper agreements. That's not something that zoning controls. So
I'm talking about participation. I'm talking about just from the last meeting until this meeting, the same questions came up as it concerns the current community. And all I'm saying is incorporate those concerns. So when you're talking about the plans for the area, you could also say, well, the block from this part of Bellevue to the other ends of Bellevue will have these resources available while we're developing. They can apply for these grants or whatever the case may be, so that these questions these concerns aren't constantly being brought up, because you guys talk about it, but it's not within the presentation when you present.
Okay, and I can answer that, Michael, and I'm glad you answered that, asked that question. As Michael stated, this is a zoning plan, pretty much a redevelopment plan. Where you're speaking of is what would be a community plan, and maybe that could be a component that NIA will put together that actually can be adjacent to this zoning component. That's pretty much quality of life of how, not just with, okay, well, this block will be this way or what have you. Really, that's pretty much a neighborhood process. And that's what we're hoping to do with the survey that NIA is putting forth. I think that will actually answer it. But when you're talking about redevelopment plans, rehabilitation plans, you're pretty much talking about a zoning plan, which don't adhere to that particular I would say quality of life. Now we can talk about maybe infrastructure improvement, or like what I guess what kind of like housing stock would be involved there, what have you. But when it comes to quality of life, that's a little bit separate. So, but we do see that as we see that as as much as important as the zoning process, because that is a part of community development.
Stephanie, doesn't that have to do with economic development?
Partly, yeah, that does have to do with economic, how the community looks at it from an economic standpoint. The zoning ordinance itself, if you look at any zoning ordinance or redevelopment plan throughout the state of New Jersey, they don't have that component. And Mike and Jeff, you guys help me out here. That's pretty much quality of life, or how the community itself will come around working within the plan, understanding what is allowed to be developed, what is not allowed, what is prohibited, It doesn't even talk about a color scheme. So it's pretty much talking about those allowances versus going through a zoning process, which you would have to go through some type of use form. So it's a regulatory process.
Right.
Stephanie is part of that community plan that NIA may or may not put together. Is there an opportunity for language or just what conversations are we having around safety, public health and safety, in that area? What conversations are being had?
That should go into a community plan. And it's like Octavia, and then we're putting together with this survey. That is very important. That's talking about the quality of life. I always say this as a planner, like we could build a computer, but the software also has to be developed. So the software pretty much is what you guys will put together as a quality of life component to the plan. You know, as we're dealing with this Mercer Bellevue-Rutherford redevelopment process, we need to put together a comprehensive quality of life that will complement that plan. And being that NIA has been working very, very close with the developer, this is an opportunity where more community members can actually put their input with their survey and say, okay, this is what we like to see. And that way you have an organizational front to be able to, whoever comes in to develop or whoever inside the community decide to develop, they have a roadmap to deal with, if that makes sense.
Great question, Stephanie. There's some more hands raised though.
Dr. Bassett,
Wait, did we answer your question, Natalia?
Partly.
Okay.
Can I respond to that a little bit further or a little bit more detail?
yes,
Please,
sure.
yes, thank you, Jeffrey.
Yes.
I think that what could potentially, and I think this is answering her question, what could potentially be identified in the plan is maybe certain incentives and subsidies that, you know, the community in the, I guess, the rehabilitation and infill area could potentially take advantage of. And then potentially talk about what that means and what steps a homeowner is to take.
Yeah, that
But,
would be part of the community.
And
but
so
I would also say, you know, a lot of times that information is very static, it gets old quickly, but you know that could be definitely an initial start to try to provide that information.
But there could also be really an element or I don't want to say a committee, but you know, or not an organization, but an element of the city, once the plan is adopted, that organizes those folks who are interested in the preservation and rehabilitation and infill area, and is like a clearinghouse for that, you know, that an ongoing thing. So if somebody says, hey, how do I do this? There's a hosted part of the website has that, and here's what you do, right? And
Right.
and that, so it could be an ongoing thing, but that's not something that happens in a redevelopment plan. That's something that's really got to be more like neighborhood development, or it's actually like almost workforce development or whatever.
Right.
And Michael, I was going. You said exactly what I was going to say. I think it needs to be an ongoing process. Let me say, you know, with NIA, with us being supportive, and with the city of Trenton, quite frankly, many of the programs that might become available as incentives or grants or whatever the case may be will flow through the city of Trenton. So I think there needs to be, you know, some organization or clearinghouse, as Michael says, is that when residents are interested in participating in terms of rehabilitation or anything else as part of the plan, then I think, you know, there needs to be that resource available to them. And that could be written in some form of a community plan, I guess, if you want to call it that, just so there would be a repository of resources, programs, procedures that people can use to be involved and to rehabilitate their properties, to own a business. I mean, I don't know. I mean, you know,
Right.
there's an awful lot that could go in there, but that would be the kind of thing that I think would really benefit the community and encourage their involvement in what's happening, not only on the hospital site, but throughout the district. So I think that's something that's important. Let me just say one other thing. I think some of the things that I think will probably fall to the city in some cases throughout the district is infrastructure improvements. I mean, that's something that I think has to be looked at to see where some of it that we're going to be dealing with as part of our construction of the site itself. But I think there are infrastructure improvements that will go a long way to sort of that flow of people in and out of the district, through the district, and so on. Infrastructure in terms of, you know, streets and sidewalks and green spaces. So I think there's a lot more, or there's a lot that this plan allows for that will have to take on a lot of partners. And I think if it all comes together, and this might be a good resource for for that to happen with the community, I think you're going to have a very, very nice community when this is, I mean, it's not going to happen overnight, obviously, but I think it's going to be an excellent, excellent community if we're starting on the right foot. So if we can continue along this path and continue working with each other throughout the years that it's going to take, you know, for build out, you know, I think we can achieve what we're all looking for here.
Thank you.
Okay, Abdul Basit.
Yes. Good evening, everybody. How are you?
Good evening.
I was concerned about, or I was making sure that I heard it correctly. The gentleman with the CCH was speaking in reference to Panasia participating, if I heard it correctly, in the infill and the renovation / rehabilitation of the properties that border the Panasia site, the Mercer Hospital site. Did I hear that correctly?
Yeah,
I'm not sure. I don't remember hearing that.
Well, let me just maybe try to clarify a little bit. Yeah, we're going to be supportive in that area.
In which
where
way?
it makes sense for us to take an active role, we will. But
Wait.
we'd rather see the community come together and work in those areas of.
Well, from my understanding, NIA has already been designated and in charge of that. So I thought that Panasia's scope was limited to the Mercer Hospital site. So now I didn't hear you right. So now it sounds as though Panasia wants to get involved in the renovation and rehabilitation of off-site properties.
I would just say that our main focus is the hospital site. That's what we're going to be working on.
Not main, total, because you can't say main.
I'm going to be very honest with you. I'm not going to sit here tonight and say that we will never be involved with any properties that are not on the hospital site.
What would you like? I'm listening.
We may. It may be beneficial to the entire community for us to do that.
The reality is any property that Panasia does not own right now, it has no right to redevelop.
I was going to say the same thing.
So what are we talking about?
Let's say that first. And I'll say this too.
Because here comes the issue. Here comes the issue. You solicited and the city approved NIA's involvement for the Mercer site, not for the whole neighborhood. So let's focus. Let me finish. So let's focus on the site, because you really don't have the authority to speak on what should go on outside of your site. So let's keep it tight.
Not what you're saying. That's not what they're saying.
I heard what he said. He just said in the future, he may want to be involved with properties that are not on the site. Did I hear that correctly, sir?
I said it's a possibility where feasible and where it's in the best interest of the entire community, we may be.
Yeah.
Best interest of the community.
And that actually, again, as Michael stated, because again, and this is let's not get confused here. Again, if they decide that's what they want to do, as any other person on this line, you all have opportunity to do so. So it's not like you said, he doesn't.
How do they get to decide?
They don't get to decide.
We don't get to decide.
That's the difference.
All right.
They don't get to decide. They do not get to decide, Mr. Bassett. That's it. They do not get to decide.
Yeah. Just to be clear, we were asked to do not just a plan for the site and properties that are owned by Panasia, but we were asked to look through the lens of redevelopment for the entirety of the redevelopment area. As a this is a private developer doing a plan for the city to adopt. So we don't get to decide. We have done conceptual ideas about zoning. We've worked with the city planning office. We've worked with NIA to come to this point, but we don't decide. The city and the planning board decide whether or not to adopt this plan. They are the deciders. We are not the deciders.
Thank you.
So, Stephanie, because I have to get off. I've been on for a while. First thing I'd just like to say is I want to thank everybody for the long-term work and hours that you have put into this project. I like the fact that it's holistic for our community to grow, to move that eyesight off of Bellevue Avenue. It's good for retail. It's good to put young families in. It's good to build up that area for pre-existing residents that live there. Because I like to spend my money in Trenton and not in other places. And it seemed like in this site, the residents would be able to do that. It's kind of like what they did out in Ewing for the students that go to college. They don't have to go anywhere. They can go to college there. They live there. They can spend their money there. And it's good to see that Trenton is getting that type of guidance in this project. So I'm focused on the project, because that's what you asked me to come on and listen to tonight. And I thank you for the effort and the time that you put in. It seems good. There's a few things that we're gonna have to tweak. That's why we have these conversations. But so far, the plan looks good. So I commend everyone that's been working on this for the time that you've been working on. God bless all of you.
Thank you. Carol Rogers, are you still here? Okay.
Thanks, Stephanie. Appreciate that. So Carol Rogers, yes, I agree with the previous speaker. I think these community forums are a wonderful way for everybody to have a voice in what will be your future zoning plan. A couple of things, comments I want to add in one question. One, I've been a 40+ year resident on the West Ward and actually was a community stakeholder in the original Hermitage Avenue redevelopment plan that Mercer Medical Center started. So I appreciate Sam Frisbee talking about the overlap, because I think that's really something that we all would benefit from. The West Ward is one big, continuous neighborhood that we all feel vested in. So I'm happy to do this. In terms of the supermarkets people were talking about, I mean, Aldi is great, and I think their market share would be perfect here, but I also would like to add the Roebling Market is Food Bazaar, and Pennington Avenue is IGA, and they all have business models that are geared towards urban neighborhoods. So something just to kind of maybe add to your potential. I'm also very, very happy to see the canal being kind of an equal player in this development plan. If you look at the map of Trenton, the West Ward and just a tiny bit of the North Ward really is all that's left of really one of the big reasons Trenton is here today is because of the power of that canal and the Delaware River. And I think that that's a great asset that the city should get behind. And from a zoning perspective, I just think that will add value. The Creek to Canal project is going on. There's lots of individual entities. And if as the West Ward can add to that, it can only bode well for the future of that plan and the quality of life, which we're all interested in on this side of the city. The last thing is the question. So you've all talked about different funding, and I didn't know if part of the funding for this might trickle down from the federal funds that President Biden has been putting in. I know there's been a lot of talk about the municipalities and stuff getting monies, and I know the city is earmarked or has some. And would this project be something that would be a good vehicle to utilize that? Because one of the things I did read and heard on the radio was like, this is such money that this is generational money that we're going to get. And this project is honestly generational. And to be able to take that money to have a quality of life permanent future for the West Ward and the city of Trenton, I mean, I don't see any negative. So as planning, zoning is looking at the distribution of those funds, this is, to me, an ideal project to do that. And I thank NIA for organizing these community meetings. I think they're a great opportunity for us to kind of see and also give our opinions. So thank you for that.
Yeah. Well, just to pick up on the funding question, if we don't have an adopted plan, there's no money. So that's just it. There's no private money and there's no public money.
Well, that's good to know. We got to keep going, and keep moving forward, right?
Right. But I think your point's well taken. I think those dollars, the city has a lot of needs, no doubt about it. And I'm sure they're going to filter down through the city in one way or another. But for this kind of a plan, for this long-term reach that we're talking about here, you know, whatever could be filtered into this area, into this community is just going to go to the betterment of the entire plan. So absolutely, we'd love to be able to take advantage of that, particularly in infrastructure and in housing rehabilitation and in open spaces. I mean, they're the things, they're the quality kinds of things that'll really make this a great community.
Mr. Daniels, do you think you have a comment on those federal funds? By any chance, I don't mean to put you on the spot or anything, but you know, I was wondering that might be somewhere in your span of control.
At this time, no, I without any degree of specificity, I do know that there's a lot of programs coming down the pike, that there's a lot of money out there. I will be looking to see what the city of Trenton what will be earmarked specifically for Trenton. So as we move forward in the process, I will in particular be looking at what monies can directly go to this project. So at this particular time, no, I don't have an answer for you as you're looking for right now.
Pesca.
Just my last 2 cents. So one, I think this is absolutely fabulous. I love that you are asking the community for their input with this. It really does. It's a feel-good moment to know that we are actually being incorporated on something that actually impacts us. And also one of the selling points that we might want to add when we're telling city council, my husband and I, and our family, not just my husband and I, when we are on the canal and we get into PA, there is a small stopping point that the bikes, those who are on their bikes or joggers have. And if we have that development here off of Bellevue, that would be a great location for folks who need to rest or just refresh themselves off of that canal to stop in. And that just, it brings more revenue, but it also is that resting place. So it's another draw. So that might be also another selling point on this when you're talking to city council, to have that as a resting place. We can help, that'll help us encourage the city, the state to spruce up that canal even more, because there are parts in there when you get in deeper into Trenton that need work, especially on West State Street side. But to have that designated as a stopping point for folks to stop in to rest when they want to, when they get into Trenton, I think would be a wonderful selling point as well.
Absolutely. I think you're 100%.
Absolutely.
Off what street off of that? What street is off of that?
Hermitage. Hermitage.
Okay. Thank you. Anyone else?
Octavia, I just want to say thank you. First of all, congratulations to you and Nia for pulling this off and being viable partners. And thank you to the partners at the table, Bob, Michael, great work. We still have a lot of work to do. But I also want to say congratulations to everybody on the call.
That's right.
Thank you.
There is a perception that when meetings are called in the city of Trenton, that we don't show up. And we showed up tonight and we gave valuable input. And so I just want to say thank you to everybody. This is the type of work that we're going to need in order to move our community forward.
Say it again.
Said. Well said. Thank you.
Okay. All right. I want to thank everybody for coming. And this has really been, it was exuberating. I really appreciate everybody coming out, because we haven't had a feeling like this since we started this. So this was really great. The input was great. The questions were great. All the information was needed, and we have to continue to move forward.
And Octavia, please lead people towards the survey that you guys have. I think it's very important with all the.
I think everybody on this, everybody here has seen that survey. Am I not correct? Has everybody answered the Survey Monkey?
Resend
I'm
it
pretty
just
sure
so
I
that,
did.
you said you're gonna keep it up until the 30th, right?
Yes.
Just make sure we resend it because you want as many valuable data inputs as you can possibly get.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
we should all share it, but resend it to us so that we can
Okay.
share it again.
All right, I'll resend it tonight. Okay, thank you all.
Thanks,
Okay,
Thank
thank
Octavia.
you.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Good night.
guys.
Thank
And
you.
Stephanie and
Yeah,
Jeff.
everyone have a good night.
Hey,
Take care.
Jeffrey, I want that background. I helped pick that out. I want that background.
Thank you.
Hi, just a quick question before everyone jumps off.
Yes.
Is the survey available in other languages?
Bernard. No, is Bernard there?
I don't think he is.
Yes, I'm there.
Oh,
And not immediately. One could have it excuse me, one could have it translated if you so wish.
Well, I think it's key. There's a diverse linguistic population here in Trenton
You're
and
right,
growing.
you're
So
right.
I
I
think
didn't
it's
even think
important.
about that. You're
I
right.
will get on it tomorrow and see how quickly I can get an estimate for getting it translated.
Super grateful. Thank
Be about a
you.
day.
See what happens when you invite a whole bunch of cooks into the kitchen? Good stuff happens. Good food, baby. That's good food.
Awesome. Thanks.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. All right, bye,
Hi,
everybody.
Jeff Wilkerson. Good to see your face.
Good night.